And while the league is facing many challenges in trying to restart, our insider Brian Windhorst explained to us earlier this week one possible scenario the NBA could look to for getting players back.
The reality is that not only when it comes back to is there not going to be any fans, but there's a decent chance that they're going to have to look at centralizing teams. It is what the Chinese are doing with their league, and they're facing a 4-month delay to get it done. This is what the NBA is going to have to seriously look at is centralized locations. LeBron shot down the concept of this idea last week. Other players that I have talked to don't like it, but it is what the reality is. The hard thing, the number one thing, is to get the players protected and to keep them healthy. And you can't travel to do it, and you've got to create like a tunnel for them to stay in. And that's why I think it's going to have to be, maybe not at one place, but it may be a couple centralized locations.
Yeah, that is what they're planning to do in the Chinese Basketball Association if and when they're able to get those teams back on the floor. Bubble cities is what they're being called. JJ, it's easy to see where the players would find that challenging to be separated from your families and all the rest of that. What would you think about that possibility for the league coming back if and when it's able to do so?
Well, we're in sort of an unprecedented situation right now. So your normal choices are sort of off the table. And we really have to explore everything in order to finish this season. The idea of 30 teams flying to 28 different markets to finish the season just seems entirely unrealistic at this point. And so I know this idea of these sort of bubble cities is being floated. As a player, I just want to finish the season, whatever form or shape that is. We don't expect to play in front of fans or anything like that, but we do want to finish this season and play as many games as possible.
What kinds of conversations have you been having with other players about that notion and about their comfort level in coming back? What would it take?
Well, I think comfort level, a lot of that has to do with playing in an empty arena. I think that's just realistic right now. And everybody that I've talked to, everybody wants to finish the season. For us, I've talked to a bunch of my teammates on the Pelicans. We want to have some sort of regular season that gives us a chance to get the 8th seed and make the playoffs. Our worst case scenario for an NBA season is that we jump right into the playoffs and we don't get a chance to get that 8th seed.
It's interesting because it's something that seems so distant right now to people's concerns, but it's easy to see why that would be your concern. You're 3.5 games out of the 8th seed. What would be your reaction if the league came back and said, we're just going to freeze things where they are? You've never missed the playoffs, whatever that's worth in your own personal situation. But if they were to freeze things where they are and go ahead and start things up with a postseason?
That would be their choice. Again, I just want the season to finish, however that is. Obviously, I would love to make the playoffs again. If we don't end up in the playoffs, I do believe I'll get some sort of asterisk on this 14th season, and hopefully can get back next year. But in all seriousness, this is we were the last game before the NBA sort of suspended the season. We were in Sacramento. We were in the locker room when Rudy Gobert. It came out that he had tested positive for coronavirus and that they were going to suspend the season. And it was at that moment that sort of the gravity and the seriousness of this situation hit us. And, a lot of us, we were in the locker room talking, and we didn't feel safe going out and playing in front of 20,000 people that night in Sacramento. We didn't feel safe for the fans. We didn't feel safe for each other. And then having to go back home that night and be with our families. So, I don't know that anybody was really taking this as serious as it should have been until the NBA season got suspended, which is crazy in retrospect.
While I have you here, it almost feels so trivial, but I think fans are watching and they want to hear us talk some basketball, so let's do it. You have a young teammate by the name of Zion who has taken the league by storm, and people are so excited to see what he is capable of. I guess I would ask you this question. If he were to reach his full potential, what do you think he could become?
An NBA MVP, first team All-NBA, a Hall of Famer, and a guy who leads teams to championships. I think that's his ceiling. He hasn't even come close really to scratching the surface. And as his skill level develops, as the game slows down a little bit for him, he's going to be even better, which is scary for sure.
What can you tell us about him? He's a Duke guy, as you are, obviously. And
Yeah.
what can you tell him about him, just the work ethic that you've seen and all that time that he missed? What have you seen from him?
Well, I know for him it was frustrating to start his rookie year with an injury and to go through that rehab process. It's not a fun thing. I think the most impressive thing about Zion is just the level-headedness that he has in regards to the amount of hype and attention that he gets. He seems, in general, unfazed by all of it, which I think speaks volume about his maturity as a 19-year-old.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.